Hey guys, All in Crypto here, and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for another YouTube video. This is, of course, going to be your daily cryptocurrency market update. And can we start by smashing that like button for 30k Bitcoin? It has been a great 24 hours in the crypto space, and of course, it very much is moving in the direction that we want it to. We're going to do a number of things in this video. It's very interesting, and really nothing random is happening here with Bitcoin's price. You know, nothing random happens with markets necessarily. Markets are driven by individuals, and there's always a motive behind why individuals are purchasing certain things and thus moving the markets. Now, we know when we've addressed this in great detail, we've looked at the 2-year yield, we've looked at the macro broadly, and we've said there's a shift that's taken place. You know, we've gone from, and what's driven markets is a tight monetary policy. That is looking to come to an end. And actually, in the same way that markets front run the tightening to the downside, they'll front run the loosening to the upside. Isn't it very interesting that we saw Fidelity and Bank of America take positions in MicroStrategy? Now, let me tell you right now, they aren't buying MicroStrategy for MicroStrategy. They're buying it for their Bitcoin exposure in a regulated manner, as there are no ETFs or other vehicles, barring maybe Grayscale's GBTC, for them to do that in. So it's interesting we're seeing big players take positions and gain crypto exposure. We've also looked at Grayscale as a barometer for institutions, which very much led the market yesterday. Grayscale was running. It's pointed out by one of my community members. By the way, guys, if you want to join my community, there is a link in the description. It is well worth it. We're getting the market correct at the moment and thus making money from it. And that's really what we're all here to do as investors and certainly traders. We do have a swing trade that's actually outperforming the main performer, which of course is Bitcoin, which is certainly interesting. But there's a link in the description, well worth the money in my opinion. But it's very interesting what's happening with the markets. It's not random. What I want to spend the first little bit of this video doing is talking about Dow theory and actually how genuinely we've had price potentially confirm the start of a new uptrend. And actually Dow theory is very handy as an investor and somebody that watches markets to paint the broader picture. You know, there's lots of different timeframes you can look at markets at. You should always start with the largest to try and work out where we're going. This is how we managed to call. And in all fairness, we didn't actually say that it was a bottom because there's no way you can prove it until it's actually proven to be the case. But we did take a position back in the markets here, based, of course, on our divergences on the RSI. This was showing up across the board. But I want to spend the first little bit of the video talking about technically the fact that you may now be moving into a bull market or an uptrend after being in a downtrend. And actually, Dow theory does show how this takes place. And you can see this is very similar price action to what we've got here for Bitcoin. And actually, it's not just Bitcoin, it's the market at large. And then we'll get into a little bit of news. Just wanted to share this. Fun fact, 4.5% of the entire global population invest in crypto. It's easy to respond to this. Of 4.5%, they have an average of less than 10% of their net worth in crypto. So actually, it's less than 0.45%. It is still very early to be looking and speculating on the cryptocurrency markets, guys. It has a very bright future ahead of it. You know, we are seeing a real push towards regulation. Signature Bank fail. Acknowledges volatility of crypto exposure, according to lawsuit. You know, we're seeing a huge regulatory push, and actually regulations are the very thing that changed the majority of US adults' opinion on crypto from it not being safe to safe, and also bringing this sort of tidal wave of institutional investment. So let's kick the video off, guys. Really where I want to start is looking at Dow theory. We'll just draw basic Elliott waves to sort of show this. This is your Dow theory, right? You basically have some sort of distribution, and then you kick off things to the downside. And this is all a bull market and a bear market are uptrends and downtrends. And for Bitcoin, probably shouldn't have used this chart. Have I got any other charts on here? Yep. This has been... And I'm not saying it's played out in a perfect Elliott wave fashion, but it kind of has, right? And this is why I do give some credibility to Elliott waves. The downtrend. You've had this period, and I think it's more broadly this period of sort of consolidation, this sideways action. And, you can apply it to both the top and the bottom. Stan Weinstein did a great book actually talking about this called How to Make Money in a Bear and Bull Market, where he talks about 4 stages of a market. But this looks like the bottom stage, and we're now entering. And this is why we have our Elliott wave theory drawn on our main chart, an uptrend. We not only have this as a theory, looking at Dow generally, we also have technical reasons why we entered the market back at 15K. We've got this neckline and this head and shoulders that gives us a 35K target or a 40K target, depending on whether you're 40K plus, whether you're looking at it on log or non-logarithmic. Everything is lining up. And actually, altcoins, which we've also stated are on this kind of 3-wave prophecy, but they're lagging behind Bitcoin and Ethereum, are all at this kind of key stage of breaking out. They're all back at this resistance of the FTX spill, the final capitulation potentially, and now they're making their sort of voyage to the upside. This is DOT as an example. We can look at Ethereum, which I think is further ahead. And ultimately, I do see, for most altcoins, this kind of price action on the horizon over the next year or so. So everything is breaking out in this kind of Dow theory fashion. And ultimately, there's no reason to bet against that. If you're on the wrong side of the trend as a trader, you're going to lose money. Right now, we're making money, and that's because we've been able to call the broader market. We've been able to look at the macro, which we think is changing. We've got a lot of confluence to that change. Certainly the 2-year yields, which actually did climb yesterday, is something we're looking at. Whether the dollar strength holds or not, it could be a last hoorah before we get into the CPI, which is tomorrow, which ultimately, when I'm looking at certain altcoins, and just to bring the total 2 up, they all look good. But this is something we drew before we'd even had the consolidation here. And ultimately, you're on that direction. We don't, these little scribbles are just really that. They're just scribbles. But you can see actually the total too. So this is the total market cap is lagging behind Bitcoin. It's lagging behind Grayscale GBTC. And you can see this fashion of a market that's played out. And now, I believe, you've had your 1 wave, your 2 wave, and we've actually told, well, we've not told anybody, this is not financial advice that we give on this channel, but we have been telling people to, that we're loading up, I don't know if it's going to get this high. Who knows? It may start here, and then you may get some sort of larger ABC down here, which could come with a sort of general crashing of things and this recessionary narrative and potentially pivots. But we don't think they're going to pivot for a while. We've looked at the macro. We've looked at how we think rates are going to go sideways. This is going to propel markets. And Bitcoin is actually looking great, and we covered this in yesterday's video against its crosses. So gold and, of course, the S&P. So things look good. We think broadly there's a complete market change going on. And we think as long as you're on the right side of the trend and stick with it, this is where hodling works, right? It didn't work in here, and this is why we got out the market here. It's all still on YouTube, and then took a position back in here. We've called it pretty brilliantly. There is an element of luck, of course, in this, but we were keeping people outside the market. And of course, if you want to find out more about that, link to my Patreon. So that's the technicals, guys. We keep going. We also did say that Bitcoin looked a lot like gold. It was doing a very similar thing to gold with this sort of sideways price action. And you can see we actually, and we did look at it, overlaid. You can see this sideways price action that you had. Bitcoin did a similar thing. We said it's likely going to follow. Gold's almost becoming like a lead indicator. Do we get something similar to this with the CPI tomorrow? It's going to be volatile. We've also got bank earnings on Friday, which will be interesting. These are market movers. And we did actually say that we thought Tuesday, stay away from the charts on the weekend. You're going to burn your eyes out. Tuesday is likely when things are going to get rocking and rolling. It's because of all this macro data. So that's the plan, guys. Ultimately, we've outlined it. We've been pretty spot on about the market. We're going to inevitably get things wrong at some point. But just an encouragement for people that aren't already familiar with Dow theory and certainly books like Stan Weinstein's How to Make Money in a Bull and Bear Market and his 4 stages of market. Get familiar with Dow theory because it plays out and you have these kind of shifts with the markets. You can see it playing out all the time. Anyway, on that note, guys, that was the technicals. Yeah, let's get into a little bit of news. So the majority of the US adults view crypto as unsafe. This is interesting because, and this is why I think regulations in somewhere like the US are 100% needed. Because first of all, they're not going to let you they're not going to allow the industry to thrive unregulated and allow all these big institutions to put money into it. This is why we've seen institutions like Bank of America and Fidelity that would probably have preferred to buy a Bitcoin ETF that's registered actually take shares in MicroStrategy to gain Bitcoin exposure. We're seeing a lot of regulatory merit with the likes of Silicon Valley, or not Silicon Valley Bank, sorry, Signature Bank. However, you could say this is totally hypocritical as Silicon Valley Bank, which is exposed to the traditional financial world, not crypto necessarily. You know, they had a similar thing take place. Crypto GPT raises 250 million. Crypto meets AI. I believe I've actually read a book on this. Is a scary thought, but it's one that's coming, guys. And this, you know, when you take human beings out the equation and you make something immutable, people use Google Maps. They don't ask somebody for directions, right? And this is the way that the world is moving towards. It's a technological advancement, blockchain, just like AI. And it's really going to change the world. We continue to see this narrative. Texas Gold-backed digital currency project, law decoded. So we're seeing a push now. And remember, the US have tried damn hard to keep people away from gold towards gold and alternative systems. This is one reason why Bitcoin's doing so well and benefiting. And people say, oh, you know, your altcoins aren't going to make any money. They will. Every time Bitcoin runs and leads the market, there's a narrative attached to it. This is just the new one, right? Altcoins will catch up, in my opinion. But this narrative, gold and Bitcoin, in my opinion, are friends. This narrative of gold becoming looked at and gaining attention helps Bitcoin broadly. I think that's all I've got for you in this video, guys. But it's very interesting. What a time to be a crypto investor. We may have nailed the bottom, and ultimately we're looking for that upside. You guys know I think this takes place in a 5-wave kind of structure. We've got a target that gives you 35K or potentially 40 with it not being on log. We will see, guys. On that note, I'm going to love and leave you. Stay tuned for more videos. If you've enjoyed the content, a like is always appreciated. So as a comment, if you're not already subscribed, please do so you stay up to date. And make sure you click those notifications. On that note, I'm going to love and leave you. Enjoy your Tuesday, guys. See you in the next one.